And so here we are again, y'all. Another Friday check-in where we are doing what we do in reversing our diabetes. Hey, I've been doing an amazing thing this past week, and it's called fasting. Well, not just this week, right? So if you've been following us, you know that that's what we do. And this is just a Friday check-in. This is a check-in where we come, we talked about what the week has been like, talk about some things here in terms of fasting and kind of review a few things with you. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who want to improve their metabolic health, who want to get off of medications and to live a healthier, better life. And I'm so glad that you are here with me today. And I'm excited because we're going to talk about, in addition to the kind of review of fasting, we're going to talk about a question that comes up often, and it is, what do I do with medications during my fast? Yeah, what do I do with medications during my fast? As a matter of fact, just last night we had our community meetup that we have on a monthly basis, and one of the questions that came up was this very question of medications. And so we're going to spend some time talking about that tonight as we get into the evening. And so we'll do that, and then we'll do our check-in, and then you'll get to see my blood sugars, and you'll see there on the screen what my blood sugars have been running. We'll go back and we'll take a look at some other things that are happening, and talk a little bit about this week and what has been different for this week as we move into the weekend, and talk more about how fasting can be used as a tool for reversing diabetes. All right. And as always, we're going to go ahead and do a check-in, and we're going to talk about the check-in in a couple of different ways. And you know, I talk about how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint of when I was fasting, and talking about it now because I've actually already broken my fast. If you saw us last night, you understand, and we'll explain a little bit about that here in just a minute. Well, actually, let me do that now. So this past week, or I shouldn't say this past week, today is actually my anniversary, so 32 years. And so I started my fast on Sunday night, and into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. I usually do end the fast on Friday, which is usually a 72-hour fast. And this week I actually went for about 90 plus hours. And on Thursday, we don't see patients on Friday. So Friday is kind of our administrative days. We have meetings if we need to, and so forth. And as we were at work, and so we had an anniversary cake that showed up at work, and an anniversary card. And so we went in, we all got together, and my wife cut the cake, and then she picked it up, took a fork, stuck it in there, and I had some birthday cake. And we'll see what happened to my blood sugar during that period of having the birthday cake. So the fast ended at a little over 90 hours at that point, and a great conversation for us to have here in just a minute. And so then I continued. So after the birthday cake or the anniversary cake, I didn't eat anything else until I did my check-in last night. And then last night, didn't eat anything. And then today, I broke my fast earlier today before this show. And you'll see what the blood sugars did here in just a little while. We'll talk about some of the things that we ate. So anyway, so that's what's been going on this week. But going back into our check-in, so physically, one of the questions that people have is this idea of feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, having palpitations during the fast, as their body is switching from burning carbohydrates to burning fat for ketones. And one of the things that I always point out here is if you do a good job of getting into the fast, then you are not as it's not as problematic for you, right? So this week I did not feel lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty. Now I did feel more fatigued than normal, but that's because I was staying up later earlier in the week as I moved into the fast. And then into the fast, I got a lot of rest, and so that was good. So physically, actually feeling good. And today, feeling actually pretty good, right? Because we broke the fast earlier today, and actually it's been an exciting couple of days. Mentally feeling felt clear at the time, so even at 90 hours, I did not feel sluggish or dull. I was actually feeling pretty good in that space, and then coming to today, not an issue. So that's mentally, and then emotionally, I was anticipating anniversary coming up. We had just celebrated my son's 15th birthday, so that our week is actually sandwiched, right? So the beginning of the week is his birthday, the end of the week is our anniversary, and so we normally do something for at the beginning of the week for him, and at the end of the week for us. This year, we had something a little different because he is a little older and some other things that he wanted to do. So we're actually in town this weekend when we're usually out of town. But that's neither here nor there. And so emotionally, actually feeling pretty excited. Excited to be celebrating an anniversary, celebrating my son's birthday earlier this week. We were off today. Just came back in from the church. We're doing some things over at church that are exciting as well. And so it's really been a pretty good week for me emotionally. So physically, mentally, emotionally, that is our check-in. And we'll take a look at my blood sugars. But before I do that, let me hop over and just say howdy to one of our community members, Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing? She said, howdy, Doc, and howdy all. Glad that you are there hanging out with us. I do see some folks over on Instagram. Thank you for being there. And for all of you who have given comments and said happy anniversary and so forth, I thank you for all of that. All of your well wishes are well received. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars. And I showed you earlier what my blood sugar was, and that is right now what my Libre is saying. Let me change real quick and then go ahead and get rid of some of these other windows on my phone so I could pull up my Dexcom, because we're always interested in what those guys are saying. So here's my Libre, and then here's my Dexcom. Okay, so 145 is what my Dexcom is saying right now. And then of course my Libre 133. And so what I want to do now is go ahead and take a look to see what my Keto Mojo and my Contour are showing. I'm gonna grab a test strip here. So here's the test strip for my ketones, and let's grab one out of here for blood sugars, and then of course for my Contour, so let's go ahead and get that in. Boom, boom, boom. And let me do something here really quickly, guys. All right. So I've got that in, and then let's go ahead and get a strip in for the Keto Mojo. And we'll see what those are. As I'm doing this, what do you think my ketones are going to be, right? What do you think my ketones are going to be? And I'm anticipating that they're going to be low. And got a drop of blood there. We'll drop that in right there for the Keto Mojo. Drop that in here for the Contour. Let's see, did we get a drop? I think the Contour is not behaving right now. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so 134 for the contour, and the Keto Mojo 130, 142, 142 for the contour, 134 for the Keto Mojo. And let's go ahead and let's get out a strip for our ketones. And we'll see what that is. And of course, I'm not going to show that to you, right? Because I'm going to tease you like I normally do to get that running. And while it's running, we're going to pop back over here. So go ahead and drop in. What do you think? What do you think that's going to be? And while that's running over here, I do see another one of our community members coming in. So Teresa says, hi, Dr. Jennifer and everyone. Glad that you were able to join us, Teresa and Jennifer. Let's see. All right. And so, so we're going to do a quick check-in, but I do want to have a conversation where we talk a little bit about medication, okay? Because that's a question that comes up, and it is actually a question that that makes a lot of sense, because as we're talking about fasting, one of the things that happens is that if we're not careful, then we can do things that are not necessarily the best thing for us, and so it sets us up for not having success with our fasting. And remember, fasting is also, in addition to being a physical thing, it is also a mental thing, right? And so if we don't do a good job of fasting, if we don't do a good job of preparing, then we can run into some trouble. And the trouble that we run into often is that our brain remembers what it's like previously, right? It remembers the last time we tried to fast. It remembers the last thing that we did, and if we don't do that well, then we can run into some issues, and we don't want to do that. And so our goal is to set ourselves up for success in terms of our fasting. So let me do something here really quickly. Let's see. And so what I want to do is I want to spend some time having a conversation about medication. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see. Let's do this one. Give me just a second here, guys. All right, there we are. And when we talk about medication, the question that everybody has really, and let's start like by talking about diabetes medications. And really the conversation about diabetes medication comes on the heels of, well, I shouldn't say on the heels, but it actually has to do a lot with what we talk about when we talk about the pillars of reversing diabetes. Remember, those pillars are: one, decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and get rid of as much sugar as possible. And so when we talk about medication, the concern, particularly about diabetes medications, is that if we're not careful, we can have hypoglycemia, right? So the impact of fasting on blood sugar levels, right? Fasting can lower blood sugar levels, increase the risk of hypoglycemia, and then people can have things like lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, and so forth. And so when we're talking about managing medication, specifically for diabetic medications, those are the things that we want to talk about. And the first group of things that we want to talk about, of course, is insulin. And I want to have kind of a baseline conversation before we get to talk about the insulin. And the conversation is this: when you are fasting, your body is converting, depending on how long you fast, it's converting from using glucose to using fat and converting that to ketones. Okay? And the goal is for your body to get into the ketosis and for the ketosis to be able to sustain you, because most of us have enough stored energy so that we don't actually need to eat for several days. Yeah. I know you're thinking, you're like, well, no, because I get hungry all the time. Well, we'll talk a little bit about hunger here in a minute. Okay, so most of us can actually go without food for quite a while. And when we are in the fasting state, when we have converted over to ketosis, then the body, it's kind of like that hybrid car that is burning both gas and electricity that comes from the battery. When the gas is done, when the gas is completed, when the gas is finished, and the car switches over to burning energy from the battery, we don't have to worry anymore about the car not functioning, or we don't have to worry about the car not functioning as long as the battery is fully charged. So gas goes away and the car switches over, and we don't worry about, hey, do I have enough energy in this car to run, as long as the battery is fully charged. Now, when the battery starts to run low, then we've got to go back and either we decide we're going to plug it in and charge the battery, or we're going to go to the gas station and get gas. Likewise, for the body, when your body is burning carbohydrates, right? If it's burning carbohydrates and it switches from carbohydrates to burning fat and converting the fat to ketones, we don't worry about carbohydrates anymore. We don't worry about low blood sugars as long as we have enough energy in fat stored so that the body can then use that and help the body function efficiently. And so for most of us, like I said, we have upwards of 50,000. So most of us between 50 and 100,000 stored calories in our bodies. And most of us the average American uses about between 15 and 1,800 calories per day. So if you're using 15 to 1,800 calories per day, then there's quite a bit of energy that's stored up so that your body should be able to function. Now, let's step away from diabetes for a minute and let's talk about just a person who does not have any diabetes, who's not on any diabetes medications. If I take that person and begin fasting them, their blood sugars will go down, but their blood sugars will stabilize because the body will switch over to ketones, and their blood sugar, even though it looks like the blood sugar is low, when we're checking the monitor, they still have enough energy on board that the body is still functioning. That's a point that I want to make sure that you get. Because even though the blood sugar looks low on the monitor, as long as we have ketones that are in the system, then our body is burning the ketones and the body has enough energy to function. And so we don't have to worry about whether there is enough for the body to be able to do the things that it needs to do. Okay? All right. Now let's flash forward and let's talk about the patient, the person who has diabetes, and the person who has diabetes who's on diabetes medications. Because when they switch over to ketones and they're burning ketones and their blood sugars have gone down, the medications that they're on, and we'll talk about some of those here in just a minute, those medications are still working to lower blood sugar because the medication doesn't know that you've switched over to burning ketones. So it doesn't stop working. It continues to push the blood sugar lower and lower and lower and lower. And so that's why it's very important when we're fasting that we adjust medications. Okay, and so the first set of medications that we want to talk about is actually along with the very first pillar that we talk about, and that is the insulin. And there are several different types of insulin. There's long-acting insulin, there's intermediate-acting insulin, short-acting insulin, and rapid-acting insulin. And so I'm going to divide them into actually just two groups, and I'm going to just call it fast-acting and slow-acting insulin. Fast-acting and slow-acting insulin. And the fast-acting insulin is insulin we typically use with our food, or typically use when we need to bring that blood sugar down right now. And then the slow-acting insulin is insulin that we take that kind of gets into the system, and it's in there kind of working in the background to keep our blood sugars relatively normal, okay? And so most of the, and I'm going to just say fast and slow, most of the fast-acting insulins will start working within 10 to 15 minutes. They will peak, they'll have their maximum use right at about an hour, hour and a half, and then they're gone by 2 to 3 hours. Okay, and that's because I'm lumping them together. That's why I'm giving you those broad categories. And then most of our long-acting insulins will last at least 24 hours. They come in, they take a few hours to start working, and they last for 24 hours. Okay, so those are the two groups of insulins. And often, people are on both types, and we call that basal bolus. So they take a basal insulin, which is the background, and then they get a bolus insulin, which they take with their meals. And so if you are on any insulin at all, then your body, when your blood sugar goes down during fast, the insulin is still in the system, and so it is still driving the blood sugar down. So whenever we're fasting, we have to begin thinking about actually lowering the amount of insulin that we're taking, particularly during the fasting window. Often I will tell patients actually the day before they fast, they need to begin lowering the insulin. Of course, the day of the fast, often my patients don't take any insulin. And then following the fast, the day after the fast, they take a decreased amount as well. Okay? And the insulin that typically will cause the biggest problem for most people is the shorter acting or faster acting ones, right? The long acting one, not so much, but the shorter acting ones, because they work so quickly, they have a higher tendency to want to lower the blood sugar. So in the process of beginning to adjust medications, it's usually the very first one that I tell patients that they need to either back down from or stop, right? And as you are in the fasting arena, as you are venturing into fasting, as you are doing fasting, I cannot stress enough that you need to do this with the supervision of your healthcare team. Okay? With your healthcare team. So with those two insulins, right, the long-acting and then the short-acting, what I often tell patients is for the long-acting, I want them to lower the amount that they take, because remember, that's a 24-hour insulin. And then for the short-acting, I often will have them hold it the day of the fast. So first, decrease the long-acting insulin or the basal insulin, and then either hold or significantly reduce the insulin that they take during the fast. Now, this is understanding that as we are getting into fasting, those first few times when you fast, your blood sugar during the fast may end up being a little higher than it is normally, particularly if you're doing one of the shorter fasts. If you're doing intermittent fasting, often you don't have to actually decrease it that much. But if you're doing a 24-hour fast, or when I say extended fast, I'm talking at least 24 hours. When you're doing an extended fast, often you will have to back down on the insulin and back down on the basal insulin, and also either hold and or significantly decrease the short-acting insulin. And then during that entire process, you have to make sure that you are checking your blood sugars frequently. Okay? This is a great place to have a conversation about what you should be doing in terms of checking. Now, you see that I have some monitors that I'm using here off to the side. I also have my continuous monitors that I use right? So I've got a Libre on one side and a Dexcom on the other. I'm always checking my blood sugars. When I'm fasting, my alarm is going off right in the office. People say, are you fasting today? Yes, because the alarm goes off. Because the monitor is actually measuring blood sugar. And if I'm doing an extended fast, my blood sugar may be 60, but I'm already in ketosis. And so my body is now using ketones. So the fact that my blood sugar is 60 doesn't faze me, particularly because I'm not taking any medication. Okay? So during the process of becoming metabolically healthy, during the process of reversing diabetes, it is important that you are monitoring. And I cannot stress enough. So a lot of people say, well, I don't want to use a continuous monitor. I don't want to prick my finger. In order to have valid data in those two situations, then you should be checking. And I recommend a continuous monitor for people. Now, insurance companies sometimes won't pay if you're not on insulin, but coming out here in the next couple of months probably, there's going to be an over-the-counter continuous monitor that you can get without a prescription. But in the meantime, I recommend that you're checking your blood sugars. Get a meter, get a monitor, and check blood sugars. Get a monitor also that will check for ketones, because that tells you whether you're in ketosis. Right, so monitoring, very, very important. All right, so let's see. So yeah, so back to our insulin. So we significantly decrease the short-acting, or actually stop it during the day of fast, and then decrease the long-acting insulin as well. And that actually works well for the day of fast, and actually the day prior to fasting. I will tell people, begin lowering your insulin, particularly at supper time. If you normally take insulin at supper, I will often recommend that you don't do any supper insulin. You get into the fast, the day of the fast, that you don't take any mealtime insulin. And then the day after the fast, the very first meal that you do, that you don't take any insulin for that first meal. Okay? Once again, with everything, make sure that you're talking to your healthcare provider. Okay? All right. So that's for the insulin. So what about non-insulin hypoglycemic medication? And this will go to a question that is in the chat right now, and actually a question that came up in our community meetup yesterday. Right? So non-insulin hypoglycemic medications. All diabetes medications, the goal of them is to lower blood sugar, to get rid of blood sugar. There are a couple of groups that we've talked about in the past. So insulin, obviously, because insulin we say, hey, that's one that we need to get rid of anyway. But during the fasting, one that we want to begin decreasing. There are medications that are called secretagogues, but all medications in general, their goal is to decrease blood sugar. So we have sulfonylureas, that's like glipizide, glyburide, glimepiride. Those are three common ones. Your DPP-4 medications. So these are things like Januvia, Trajenta, and some other ones that we don't use much anymore. Your GLP-1 receptor agonist. So Ozempic, Mounjaro, Trulicity, Victoza, B-Cice, right? So those are ones in that category. And of course your Metformin or glucophage, and then your SGLT2 inhibitors, and that is your Jardiance and your Farxiga, and then Invokana. Okay, so those are the groups. Those are the groups, and those are specific medications in those categories, right? And so now let's kind of break those out a little bit. And so let's talk, first of all, what are called secretagogues. Secretagogues are those medications that make your body produce insulin. And we've already talked about the fact that we got to decrease the insulin that we're taking from the outside. But here now, these are medications that will make your body produce insulin. So the sulfonylureas, the DPP-4s, and the GLP-1 receptor agonists, all three of those groups one of the functions of them is to make your body produce insulin. Now, the DPP-4s and the GLP-1 receptor agonists have some additional components to them. For example, one of the reasons that the GLP-1 receptor agonist works is that it slows food as it moves through your body, so you feel fuller longer. Both it and the DPP-4s will sensitize your body to insulin and decrease the amount of sugar that comes out of your liver. Okay, so those are other mechanisms by which they work. But the one that we want to talk about right now is their secretagogue function, and that is their ability to make your body produce insulin. And so just like we talk about insulin, the secretagogues are another group of medications that during the fasting day, particularly if you're doing an extended fast, that you may need to back down on those medications on the day of the fast. And if you're taking it twice a day, once again, if you're doing twice a day, so the day prior to fasting, I'll tell my patients the nighttime dose to hold. The day of the fast, they'll hold the dose. And then the day after fast, they'll hold the morning dose. Right? So that's kind of the outline for the secretagogues. Many of the medications are actually once a day. For example, things like Tradjenta or Januvia often are done once a day. Well, most often are done once a day. And so the day of the fast, obviously you don't take it, and then you may have already taken it the day prior to the fast. But then I'll have patients monitor their blood sugars coming out of the fast, and if they normally take it in the morning, I'll tell them to hold off on taking it and then taking it at night if they need it on that post-fast day. Okay, so those are the secretagogues. With the GLP-1 receptor agonists, if you are on one of the daily ones, then you obviously can do the same thing as you do with the insulin or with the pills. But if you're doing one of the weekly ones, then on the day of the fast, there's nothing for you to do, right? Because it's already in your system. And it takes about 5 doses, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks for it to get out of your system anyway. So there's nothing that you're going to do on the day of the fast with the GLP-1 receptor agonist. And once again, those are Mounjaro, Ozempic, B-Cice, and I think I missed one, and Trulicity. Right? Victoza is a daily one. Byetta is a daily one. So those you can treat just like you do either the daily pills or the way you treat the insulin. And so there are some other medications that are not secretagogues, or they have some secretagogue functions that can cause some other issues. And so one of the groups, or two of them, one is Metformin and the other the GLP-1 receptor agonist, because Metformin can have a tendency to cause nausea. And so if you've been taking Metformin prior to a fast, the day of the fast, you may be queasy, and particularly if you take it on an empty stomach. Let's say you decide, you talk with your healthcare provider, and they say, well, look, your blood sugars are high enough that I think you still need to take the Metformin. If you take the Metformin on a day when you're fasting, that means you're not eating. And often people, in order to get over the symptom of the Metformin, they'll eat food and then take the Metformin. But if you're fasting, then the symptom, that nausea, may be a little bit more pronounced during the fasting day. And so you'll have to kind of talk with your healthcare provider, say, okay, what do we do in this case when I am fasting and I take my Metformin? What do I need to do during that time if it's causing me to be nauseated? Okay? And then the GLP-1 receptor agonists, the way they work is by slowing food through your GI tract. And so that often will show up to some people as nausea. And so if you do have those symptoms during the time when you're fasting, we need to begin thinking, okay, is this an issue outside of the medication that I'm taking? Is it a metformin issue? Is it a Victoza issue? Is it a one of the GLP-1s, Mounjaro, Ozempic, so forth? Okay, so you want to make sure that you are that you're paying attention to that as well. And then I don't have that on the screen, but I do want to also talk about one additional thing that can happen. So medications such as Farxiga and Jardiance, the mechanism of action for those medications is that they take sugar and they put it in the urine. And whenever we put sugar in the urine, then fluid, water, follows it, right? So that's why people pee a little bit more when they're on the GLP-1, the SGLT2s. So that if you decide, you and your healthcare team decide that you're going to take the Jardiance or Farxiga on a fasting day, you're going to have to make sure that you are well hydrated in addition to what you normally do. Because often when we are fasting, because we're not thinking so much about eating, we also don't think that much about drinking. And so we want to make sure that you remain hydrated and you don't get into trouble. Okay. So that's when we talk about diabetes medications. There are some other medications that people will be on that I want to address really quickly. And one group, let's start with the SGLT2s, because just like the SGLT2s will cause fluid loss, if you are also on a diuretic and you decide with your team that you are going to stay on that diuretic during the fasting period, then you want to make sure that you are also taking care of your fluid status. Because once again, if you're on a diuretic and you're not eating, you tend not to think about drinking. And so if you're not drinking already and the diuretic is on top of that, then you can get into some issues there. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Also, people who are on blood pressure medications, because during the fast, once again, fluid status goes down, and a big component of blood pressure for a lot of people, which is why a lot of people are on diuretics, is the fluid. And so if you are fasting, if you are not drinking, if you are not hydrating well, and you're taking blood pressure medications during the fast, then that can put you into a difficult situation, because now your blood pressure can be low as well. Okay? And so those are some common medications that people are on, and I wanted to make sure that that we address those. Now, here's a huge group of medications that I do want to just make a comment about, and those are medications where you're told that you have to eat with the medication. When it says take this with food, okay? There are medications that say take with food because they cause upset stomach, or they can cause upset stomach. And what you want to do is you want to talk with your healthcare provider and say to them, hey, I'm interested in fasting. I have this particular medication that you've told me I should take it with food, or the bottle says I should take it with food. When I'm fasting, I won't be able to eat. Is it okay for me to do this without food? And there's some medications your healthcare provider will say to you, no, you can't. And there's some medications they'll say to you, let's try it and see how you respond. And then there's some medications they'll say, yes, you can. Okay? So you're going to get one of those three different answers, and then you can adjust what you do accordingly. So when we're talking about medications, it's very important, first of all, if you're diabetic, that we deal with the diabetes medications and adjust them as we talked about. The first group is insulin, then the Secretagogues, and then those medications that may have other effects other than their insulin stimulating factors like nausea and dehydration. And then, of course, medications that are non-diabetic medications that also you need to be aware of, because they can have impact on your ability to get through the fast successfully. All right, does that make sense to everyone? All right, awesome. Okay, let's hop over, and I do see someone else has dropped in. So Teresa was asking, what about glipizide? And I hope, Teresa, that we did answer your question about the glipizide. I hope that my answer gave that. If not, go ahead and drop that again in the chat, and we can answer it. And then we see Steve. So Steve is saying hello everybody. Glad that you're here with us, Steve. And then so Teresa's just saying hello, Steve. I'm glad that you were here as well. Awesome. Okay. All right, so so I hope that, but I wanted to spend some time going through that because it is a question that comes up often for a lot of people as they are in the process of trying to fast, and we wanted to make sure that we addressed those. All right, so what do you think? What do you guys think that my ketones are going to be? What do you think my ketones are going to be? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Let me know what you think my ketones are going to be. And as we do that, we'll go ahead and get ready to talk a bit about fasting. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So fasting, successful fast. What is a successful fast? And as you know, I break fasting up into several categories. 3 main categories: preparing for the fast itself, and then ending the fast or breaking the fast. Fast, getting into the fast, the fast itself, and then ending the fast. And getting into the fast, there are 3 or 4 pillars that we always want to talk about. So as we prepare for the fast, number 1, we want to make sure that we are rested. Fasting is not just a physical thing, it's also a mental thing. And so if you're not rested and you are already fatigued, then getting into the fast, going through the fast, and successfully making it through the fast can be problematic. And if you don't do it well, your brain will remember what it's like the last time you tried to fast. And the next time you try to fast, then the brain's gonna say, no, we don't want to do that. Okay? So the way you prepare for the fast not only has implications for this fast, but it also has implications for future things that you're going to do, right? So making sure that you're rested. Number 2, making sure you're hydrated, because when you get into the fast, the tendency is going to be to not maintain hydration anyway. And so making sure that you're well hydrated going into the fast is going to set you up for success. Otherwise, you're going to be lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, having palpitations, and you're going to say, this is terrible. I'm not doing this ever again. Fasting doesn't work. But it's not that the fasting doesn't work, but our preparation for the fast was not where it needed to be. So resting, remaining hydrated, and then the third is to make sure that you are not coming out of or getting ready to go into a stressful event. Having a stressful event that you're coming out of and just going directly into, particularly an extended fast, is probably not what you want to do, because those cortisol levels are going to be high, and the cortisol is stimulating sugar. The cortisol is stimulating sugar that makes insulin, and it's stimulating the appetite. Okay, we'll actually come back and talk about how cortisol affects appetite as well. But if you're coming out of the stressful situation, then that cortisol level is going to be high. And then through the fast, the temptation is going to be to get off the fast. Remember the heat model? Those emotions? Yeah. Because we're setting ourselves up for not having a successful fast, because we're coming into it having just come out of a stressful situation, or if during the time when you're fasting there's a lot of stressful things going on, that also is not a good time to fast. Now, let me say this. Short fasts can be very beneficial. So if you're thinking, well, I can't do an extended fast right now, and when I say extend, I'm talking at least 24 hours, that's okay. Start where you are. Start with a shorter fast. Start with a 12 and 12, a 16-8. But I would not recommend going into an extended fast beyond 24 hours coming out of a stressful situation, right? So make sure you're rested, make sure you're hydrated, make sure that you're dealing with stresses, and then make sure, number 4, that you are eating a well-balanced meal prior to coming into the fast. And I don't mean, when I say well-balanced, I don't mean to suggest that you are sitting out there gorging on food. Not to say, oh, I'm going to just load up because for the next 2 days I'm not eating. That's not what I mean. But when I say make sure you're eating balanced meal, I mean a meal that is very nutritious, that is very nutrient dense. We did a show just this past week on nutrient dense, and so we talked about the difference between nutrient dense and calorie dense. So make sure that you're eating food that is nutrient dense, that has lots of vitamins and minerals and fiber and protein and non-starchy vegetables, all those things that we talk about, so that when you're in the fast, you decrease the chances of getting into a deficiency. And so that's preparing for the fast. During the fast itself, we kind of divide that up into 24-hour periods. The first 24 hours, then the next 24, 48 hours, and then 72 hours. And so as we're moving through that part of it, let's kind of run through. We're going to break it up a little more finely than that. The first 6 hours, the postprandial phase. And in this phase, your body is really just now breaking down the food. It's absorbing the food, and it's taking all the nutrients out of it, okay? So the body is still processing the last meal. Insulin levels are elevated, facilitating glucose uptake by the cells. Your digestion and absorption of nutrients continue. Blood glucose levels begin to peak. Then they slowly begin to drop. And your energy levels are high as the body continues to process the glucose, and it's running now on glucose. It hasn't switched over to ketones yet. The next 12 hours, right, next 6 hours, 6 to 12 hours, this is early fasting state. Notice the first one, we're not calling fasting because your body's still processing the food. So in this state, your insulin levels begin to decrease and glucagon levels are coming out. And this signals the liver to start releasing stored glucose. So notice it switches over very quickly. And your glycogenolysis, so breaking down of glycogen that's stored in the liver to produce glucose to maintain your blood sugar levels. That's why for people, if you're out there, so a lot of times I get asked, well, I haven't eaten for 12 hours and my blood sugars are still high. Yeah, your blood sugar is still high because first of all, you got through this first 6 hours. Your body is now pumping out sugar from your liver, right, in the form of glycogen. So it's breaking that down and it's making energy. Your energy levels begin to fluctuate as the body transitions from using circulating glucose to breaking down the glycogen. So now it's not just glucose that's running through your blood, it's glucose that actually your glycogen has to be broken down and converted to glucose, right? So glycogenolysis. And then we go from 12 to 18 hours, and this is the transition to using fat. So glucose levels continue to drop. As a result, you increase fatty acid release from the fat stores. So we're now beginning to transition, right? Hey, my glycogen is starting to wane. It's kind of like, have you ever been in a house where a light bulb is starting to go out or something and starts to flicker, right? That's what's beginning to happen now because the glycogen levels are starting to decrease and the body's saying, hey, I need to start looking somewhere else for blood sugar. The liver starts gluconeogenesis, so creating glucose from non-carb sources. Ketones are initially low because we've not fully gotten into ketosis. And people may feel a dip in their energy. They may feel irritable, right? Or hungry as the energy sources shift. And so people will feel hungry, or they think they feel hungry. The stomach starts to growl. Their energy levels go down, and that's during that period of transition. So that's 12 to 18 hours. And then 18 to 24 hours, ketosis begins. So glycogen stores are nearly depleted, leading to increased ketones as the liver metabolizes fat into ketones. So now we're starting to go and we're breaking down fat and we're getting ketones. And autophagy begins to really ramp up. We talked about autophagy last night, right? And so autophagy is the process of going out and finding broken, damaged, unused cells and recycling them and cleaning up the system. Initial stages of mental clarity may begin during this period because we are switching over to ketones, and brain, muscles, they like ketones. So people talk about the clarity that they get when they switch over to ketosis. And glucose energy or glucose levels are now beginning to go down significantly. Right? So that's 18 to 24 hours in that process. And then fat adaptation. So significant increase in ketones now because glycogen is gone. The body is very well ramped up now in burning fat and converting those to ketones. And our energy source now, just like that hybrid car, we've moved from burning gas and we're fully now burning ketones in this case. Fat oxidation increases. More fatty acids are converted into ketones. Energy levels stabilize. This is why when you fast, even though the meter records a blood sugar that's low, you don't feel it because your energy levels are stabilizing because you're using ketones. And the body becomes more efficient at using the ketones for energy. And as you fast over the course of time, you will be able to switch into ketosis much easier, right? Once you have that fat adaptation, and your body will begin to switch quickly. Sometimes when you first start, then your body will have difficulty those first few times as it moves through going from glycogen to ketones. And then so we're not going to go into longer fast. So that's the first 24 hours. We get into autophagy. If you didn't watch our show, go back and watch the show last night on autophagy, okay? Because that will tell you some of the benefits of that. And then the final phase, so we start the fast or prepare for the fast. We go through the fast, and then now we're going to end the fast, and we talk about breaking the fast. How do we break the fast? And breaking the fast is just as important as how we go through the fast and how we prepare for the fast. And when we talk about breaking the fast, the plan, what we tell everybody is start low and go slow. Start low and go slow. And so tips for breaking the fast. One, you want to monitor blood sugar levels. Right? Always, always, always. Wherever you are, monitoring the blood sugar levels. You want to talk about portion control. Very important as you are getting out of the fast, because often what happens is people are in the fast and they're anticipating all the stuff that they didn't eat and the stuff they're going to eat and what they're going to eat next. And as a result of that, when they come out of the fast, they end up eating a lot more than they planned. Okay, so portion control. Eat slowly. Enjoy the food. I was commenting just last night that post-fast, when I eat, I'm enjoying my food so much more. Right? And it's not just that I'm hungry and I'm famished. Right? But I'm more mindful of the things that I'm doing in terms of eating. Right? So eat slowly and then avoid sugary processed foods. Great place to talk about this. Because when you are eating post-fast, the things that you eat first, if you go and eat highly processed, highly sugary foods, you get a big spike in the blood sugar. When we get a spike in the blood sugar, the body has to produce insulin, or you have to take insulin from outside. That insulin immediately begins to store fat, and it begins to stimulate the appetite. Two things that we don't want. Okay? So being sure that post-fast that you are not now going in and having a whole lot of carby foods. Okay? So those are some tips. Hydration, very important, just like we talked about at the getting into the fast or preparing for the fast. Make sure you're hydrating. You can use water, unsweetened coconut water, herbal teas. And we did a show a while back on what to use to break the fast. We'll come back and do some more of that as we talk about other things that you can use. This is a great place to talk about hydration. Last night on our community meetup, several people shared things that they were using for breaking the fast. Let's see, Jennifer, if you're there, can you put in the chat for me what it was you were using for hydration for your electrolytes? I thought I had written it down, but I don't have it. If you're still there, go ahead and drop that in for us, please. Okay, so hydration, and then proteins, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing a good job of. You can use proteins. So eggs, chicken or turkey breast, tofu for those of you, or tempeh for those of you who are vegetarian or vegan. And then healthy fats, so avocados, nuts, seeds, all good things that you can use for breaking the fast. And then broths, very important. So vegetable broth, bone broth, all those are great options for us as we break the fast. And so Jennifer, yeah, so liquid IV, sugar-free liquid IV is what she was saying. So lots of things, lots of products that are out there. This is one. And I've got several that I want to use. So Jennifer, I'm going to actually pick up. I'm going to pick up some of that, and I'm going to try that. And then she also and fasting salts. Fasting salts. Awesome. All right. And so as we think about fasting, as we go through fasting, we want to make sure that we are doing so safely. So make sure that you're adjusting medications. Make sure that you are preparing for the fast well. Make sure you're getting through the fast. And also make sure that you are breaking or ending that fast in a good fashion. And let's see, Teresa says, yes, I think so, because I will check my numbers to make sure they were good. And then I want to take it if my numbers are good. Let's see. So this was when we were talking about, I guess, about checking and making sure that we're monitoring our blood sugar levels. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm so excited that I got a chance to hang out with you guys. Another time that we went through. What I didn't do, and I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly, is to take a look at what my ketones are. So let's do that. Go ahead and open up my Keto Mojo. All right, so here's my Keto Mojo. We'll go ahead and turn that on, and we'll let that run so that we can go ahead and sync. And then we'll take a look to see what my blood sugars did today. Let's see, is it syncing? No, let's go ahead and make it sync. There we go. All right, so let's see. What do we think it is? What do we think it is? Okay, 0.3. So my blood sugar was 134 here, and then 0.3. So out of ketosis. So remember, for ketosis, blood sugars or ketones less than 0.5 considered normal. So we're in the normal range right now. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. If we look at the actual graph, you'll see there that once I started eating, that my blood sugars rose quickly, and we'll take a look at my report. And as it rose, my ketones went down. Remember, ketones and insulin cannot exist in the same space for long. It's kind of like matter and antimatter. They can't be in the same space. It's kind of like in the sci-fi movies. They always tell you, if you go back in time, don't talk to yourself or interact with yourself. Right? Same thing here. They can't be in the same space. So one thing I do want to do is let's go ahead and let's take a look at my monitors here. Just before I say that, go there. If you've not looked at our show this past week, we talked about calories. It was a new sub-series that we're doing on the channel at 7 o'clock Monday nights on our show. And we're talking about calories. We're talking about what are calories? Should we be counting calories? Are calories as important as everybody say they are? And are they really the things that we need to be tracking as we're trying to reverse diabetes and also as we're trying to get metabolically healthier and lose weight? Okay. All right. So let's hop over and let's take a look at my reports. And you'll see there on the screen that my average blood sugar over the last 14 days, 113. If I pop that here and look at it over the last 90 days, we'll see that probably about 109 or something like that, 104, with a glucose management indicator or a surrogate for my A1C is 5.8. 5.8. And my target range has been 70 to 180. We're in target 91% of the time. And then if I look at my daily graph, come up here in just a minute, we'll see that, so yesterday, if you recall, right around noon or 1 o'clock was when I had the anniversary cake. And not really a big blip, right? So maybe it got up here to 83, and then I went ahead and went into the rest of the night, and then into this morning, right? So we broke the fast and started eating, and right now, well, not right now, it got up to as high as 172 right about here. And then back down to 147. And this is the Dexcom. So let's go ahead and see what my Dexcom is saying I am right now. And right now it's saying 149. Okay. And then we'll see over the course of the rest of this evening what that does. And we'll come back, of course, and share that with you as we get into next week. Awesome. All right. So, hey, guys, I am always excited to be here with you. As I always say, I am excited for this community that we're building. Here on the channel, we educate, we empower, and we encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, right? So we educate with the shows that we do. We educate with the podcasts, the blogs that we do. All of that is with the intention of providing education. We empower, and by providing tools that you can use to do what? Tools that you can use to implement the things that we've talked about. And then we encourage you with the community that we are building. So excited for this community. We had our community meetup just yesterday. Pay attention for our next month's community meetup that we're going to have. And then our newest feature that we've added to the show, or added to our program, is on Sunday morning. We have our, and let's go ahead and pull that up here really quickly. We have This Week in Review, where we talk about, we recast the things that we're doing here during the week. And okay, there we go. Okay, and so we do want you to get over there, join us. That will be Sunday mornings starting at 6 a.m. Sunday morning start at 6 a.m. This Week in Review. Make sure that you join us there. And our call to action, number one, when you come, when you show up, join the challenges, right? Don't just let these shows be things that you listen to, that you hear that they're on the shelf. Join the challenges. Every month we have a new challenge. In the month of January, our challenge was to figure out your why. Why do you want to be healthy? Are there specific goals that you have? You're retiring and you want to travel. You want to see your granddaughter, grandson, son, daughter walk down the aisle. You want to see them graduate. You need a surgery, and the surgeon says that you can't have surgery because your blood sugars are too high, or you can have surgery because your weight is too high. Whatever the reason is, we want you to figure that out, because that's going to be the energy that you use to get you through those times when you will have some challenges. In the month of February, work your way to be able to fast for a 24-hour period. Everyone in the community, that is our first stop. Working our way to fasting 24 hours. If you're not there yet, that's okay. Continue working to that. And if you're there, now we want to say, okay, how can we do some more extended fast? And we have some folks right now that are in the chat, some folks in our community that have done extended fast. We've had 24 hours fast, 48 hours fast, 72 hour fast, 96 hour fast. Okay? And it can be done. And then the heat model. The heat model, these are the things that will push us in the direction of eating, to break our fast, to get off of our meal plan, to get off of our diet. They are our habits that we formed, the emotions that push through our decisions, the access that we have when things are around us, and the taste of food. Remember the bliss point, the perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt, that when you eat that food, you say, I can't just have one, and you keep going back. In the month of April, it was to create a meal that minimized processing, that was based on whole foods, that had non-starchy and starchy vegetables, that had lean protein and healthy fats, that was the appropriate portion size, and that was tasty. In the month of May, find someone to mentor, right? Don't just keep New Year, New You to yourself. It is a process. Find somebody, bring them along with you, let them know what's going on. There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or pre-diabetes, people who have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and all of those things, all those metabolic diseases can improve with the New Year, New You process. And then in this month, we just got a couple more days, was to get with your healthcare provider and get labs checked. Now, I had labs checked last month, and because the challenge this month was to get labs checked, I got my labs checked again. So it was just shy of about a month, and we're going to be sharing those with you as we compare what last month's labs were and what this month's labs are as well. Okay? So join the challenges. Don't just let it be something on the shelf. Number 2, tell your story. When you show up, claim your seat. Say, I'm here. I've been fasting for 24 hours. I've been fasting for 18 hours. Hey, I've been fasting and I have this issue. I'm having low blood sugars. I don't understand what to do with my medication. Come right here and share your story. When we hear your story, we know that we're not alone. When we hear your story, we know we can do it. When we hear places you're having challenges, we know that we can come alongside and support you in that process. And we know that we are working as a community. And then invite someone. This goes along with our challenge, our mentoring, but invite somebody to the show. Invite them to into this space. Invite them to our meetups. Invite them to be on the channel, to watch the shows. The playlists are out there on the channel right now. How to reverse your diabetes, how to fast successfully. All those are out there, and they are with the intention of giving you the information that you need to have a healthy, successful journey in the New Year, New You process. Okay? Awesome. All right. And I do see Teresa said thank you. She said happy anniversary. Thank you for that, Teresa. Really appreciate that and appreciate this community so much. We will be back again in the new week. And as I always say, before I say that, Sunday morning, join us for this week in review, as we review the shows for this week. If somebody missed it, we want you to be here on the live. But if you didn't do it on the live, join one of the replays or you can catch us Sunday morning, and we will be recasting the shows for the week. And so you'll be able to listen to those, and you'll be able to go through them with us. Okay. Invite some. You can listen to it while you're getting ready for your day. You can put it on as you're getting ready at home. You get in the car, you can turn it on. You can listen to it. Later in the afternoon, you come on, just put it on. So instead of binging on some other things, you could binge right here on New You with us. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you Sunday morning on This Week in Review, and on Monday, 7 p.m. Central for our regular show. Good night, right here on Dwain Woode, MD.